Hey gearheads, and welcome to Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I'm Cory.
And I'm Matt. And each week this podcast will serve as a catalyst for discussion on all sorts of topics that grind our gears, rev our engines, or just need a bit more conversation. And on this week's episode, we discuss all things automotive with country music star Cory Morrow. Cory has had multiple top 40 songs as an avid gearhead with vehicles ranging from average to absolutely absurd.
And if you want to know more about Cory, head on over to his website, corymorrow.com. Link in the show notes. If you want to hear more about us and what we're into and driving, head on over to our website, gtgaragetalk.com. Matt, before we get into this week's episode and our conversation with Cory, it's been a crazy week.
Yes. That's a nice way to put it.
Very polite way to say it. So we're in separate locations, as we were when we interviewed Cory. It's been just an absolutely insanely busy week for both of us, mostly centered around what happened last weekend.
Yeah.
So for those of you not in the know, I'm sorry that you missed it, but last weekend, Saturday, October 24th, was our very first car show. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's crazy to think that it's actually behind us now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, our first annual, right? I'm going to make you say it eventually.
Give me some time, let me breathe, because that was a lot of work, man.
That was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
But it was absolutely worth it. It was an insane amount of fun hanging out with a bunch of friends from around East Texas. You know, we didn't actually ask who traveled the furthest to get there, which would have been fun. According to some of the metrics I can see on our online registration, we had someone from Dallas.
Cool.
But, you know, maybe next year we'll do an award for furthest traveled to get there.
To give my parents a shout out, I know it's my folks, but they drove all the way from Oklahoma City down to come to the car show.
This is true. And Rob and Rhonda, we thank you immensely because, Rob, we put you to work right away on the soundboard.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did.
And he also pulled around the ballot box for a while, collecting votes for the Carology Detailing People's Choice Award, which you'll just have to head on over to gtgaragetalk.com/car show to see all the pictures and get all the news and visual appreciation of how awesome this car show truly was. We had what I am dubbing Franken Truck there, a conglomeration of 6 different vehicles. And we even had, believe it or not, a Lamborghini Huracan. In pristine condition. Thank you, Dr. Lieberman. And pretty much everything in between.
Oh, yeah. From mild to wild, for sure.
Yes. It was an absolutely amazing show. And yes, I am looking forward to doing it again. But you won't be hearing me say first annual for a while, just out of...
It's recorded now. I can edit it however I want to.
Oh, boy. Here we go. But yes. So just stay tuned. Be sure you follow us on Instagram at GT Garage Talk. Be sure to like us on Facebook at GT Garage Talk. And keep plugged into our website, gtgaragetalk.com, just to stay tuned into what we're doing. And like I said, what we're driving and all the latest car news and reviews, because we truly look to bring that to you day in and day out. Coming out of the car show, that was our main focus. So now we're kind of reacclimating ourselves to the new normal. I will say, for the longest time we've been promoting this show, I've had a stack of cards in my car to let people know that their vehicle would be perfect for a car show that we have coming up. And now I see all these cars that I still like for our car show, but I'm like, I have nothing for them anymore. What do I do? So see, you're already working on that second annual. I'm not there yet. Give me a moment. Let me breathe. But again.
Talk to you again in about 6 months, and we'll see if we're a little better by then.
It was truly a fun event. Huge thank you to our sponsors, especially our two title sponsors, Carology Detailing and Hilltop Church of the Nazarene, for really helping this event happen. And yes, we look forward to another at some point. I will leave it at that.
There you go. And the day after that, you and I had a chance to minister a little bit, kind of change perspectives just a bit, and share what Christ has laid on our heart when it came to the Unlikely Heroes portion of our car show. It was a lot of fun. You can check that out at hilltop.com. I'm sorry, hilltopnaz.com. Church.
Hilltopnaz.church. We will put the link in the show notes. Hilltopnaz.church. But yes.
See, I don't do this social stuff. You got to do all the social stuff. I don't know what I'm doing.
It takes teamwork makes the dream work, is the saying, right? So
that's it.
We each have our own strengths and skills. Mine is apparently plugging all of the other things that we do, or the additional. Yeah. Anyway, we've rambled long enough. People came here not to hear this Cory, but another Cory. Is that right?
Yeah. Let's get into it.
So let's welcome Cory onto the show. Well, Cory, we are very grateful to have you with us this evening.
Grateful to be a part of it. Very honored, man.
Yes.
This is going to be fun.
Yes, it will. That is our hope anyway. So one thing that we like to ask all of our guests, especially those not as involved in the car field as some others that we've had on, share a little bit of your car history, some notable vehicles that you've owned in the past, or some fun car stories that have gotten you to this point.
I've always loved cars. I've loved driving since I was just, little bitty, I think. When I was, 13 or 14, my dad was letting me drive his Peugeot around the drive. And he lived outside of San Antonio in the country. And so we lived on this country road, and, cars would go a million miles an hour down that road. And he had a little circle driveway. And so I'd do the horseshoe and get on the main road and do the horseshoe in the driveway. And I just do that for hours because I just loved it. He bought me a dirt bike, and I'd drive the dirt bike, and any chance I could get on something that had an engine and a throttle, I would take it. Tractors, it didn't matter what it was. And I remember I was pulling up onto the road, getting ready to turn onto the road, and here comes a car. And so I was like, man, I'm a little kid. They're going to know it's a kid driving. So I'm just going to pretend that the car is parked there and lean down in the seat, and so maybe they won't see me. And when I leaned down in the seat, my foot came off the brake.
Oh no!
Started to creep out, and I was able to catch it in time, but it scared me and that person. That was sort of my first fun experience with speed, and I wasn't even the one speeding. But my first car was a '77 K5 Blazer, 4 on the floor, jacked up. It had been in a flood in Houston prior, and so we didn't realize it had no mechanical experience or abilities at the time, and so we bought it for $1,600. I drove it for 2 weeks. The front drive shaft yoke broke off and had a stop sign, that was fortunate. And then the next thing that happened is the engine just started dying. And anyway, that car died. I got a 79 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme and got my first opportunity to switch from a 2-barrel to a quadrijet 4-barrel. And we did that out in front of the house. And there was a buddy of mine who had a Suburban, so we swapped carburetor and intakes. And then got I ran that one until the oil ran out. I forgot to change the oil. And then did a Mazda B2600 pickup truck.
Nice.
And I killed that one. I ran that one through a fence at my buddy's ranch. And
I'm seeing a pattern here.
On quick. There was a pole, that holds up the wire fence, and I ran over that, and it came out of the ground, and then poked a hole in the oil pan, and I drove home, and the oil came out of that. That ranch actually killed several cars that I was driving. I killed a buddy's Explorer, driving it over the cattle guards and getting air at 70 miles an hour. And you get air at 70 miles an hour while the wheels are spinning, and it comes down and it tears the transmission apart, apparently. So I killed that, and then I got I think about a Ford Ranger pickup truck, and that was a really fun truck. That one lasted. I drove that one until I traded it in on Suburban, and then traded the Suburban in on I can't remember what. Then I started getting car deals. I started having some success in my career with music, and a Dodge dealership was offering me some deals on. So I started getting a brand new pickup every month. They were like, "Well, we'll give you 3 pickups in a year." And I was like, "Okay, well, I drive a lot." And they go, "Well, try not to drive more than 5,000 miles a month." And I'm like, "Sure."
You do know what I do for a living, right?
Yeah. So after the third one, they were like, "We got to renegotiate this deal." So I bought one of their biggest, baddest 4x4 black diesel pickup trucks from it was like 03 or something like that. It was pretty sweet. And I went into a Porsche Boxster S and I totaled it. Then I got a BMW M3 2006. So it was one with the SMG, but it was still amazing. And I didn't realize that it would pop the clutch until you put it all the way to the floor. Like, I was out one night in Houston and my buddy's like, let's go. We were going to drag somebody, and I punched it to the floor and it didn't go anywhere. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh. And we both looked at each other, we're like, this is amazing. And
so that one met its demise soon.
I got arrested in that one. I used to take that one up on Mopac every single night and try to get up to 150, 160. And got arrested for that one, had to sell that one. So I went the other direction and bought another diesel. I got a F-250, a 2006 F-250 with a 6-liter. And put a chip on it, and it was amazing. And that's since I didn't haul anything or tow anything, it lasted and did good. And then diesel prices started to go up, so I traded it in for a Honda a Civic hybrid, and went from 15 miles a gallon to 50 miles a gallon.
That's a big change.
I didn't like driving that. That wasn't very much. Traded that in and got a BMW 335i, an 07 335i. Sweet twin turbo, 3-liter, 300-something horsepower. That's been my favorite car so far that I've owned. After that, I bought somewhere in between there, I bought a 911. I had like an 05 911 Carrera S. And that was pretty sweet, but I just never could get used to the way that it slid all over the place when you take it in turns. I didn't know how to drift. And I liked the way the BMWs held the lines when you took corners. So that M3 and that 335i were real easy to drive and very smooth and silky. I have driven a Ferrari F40 in Springfield, Missouri at 140 miles an hour. I've driven a Lamborghini Aventador at 195 plus miles an hour. And I won't say where, but it wasn't on a racetrack. And I've driven an Aston Martin Vantage. I've loved cars just from all over the place, and I've always loved sports cars. Got into 4x4 stuff just kind of because it was cool, but recently I've been more into the 4x4 stuff because the engine bays are bigger, and when you're working on V8s, you want more room. And so I also have 5 kids, and so it made sense for me to get a big old Suburban. So that's where the dad bird kind of came to life when I went over to my buddy's house. I had a Chevy SS, 2014 Chevy SS,
I approve.
Absolutely.
It's been my wife's favorite car I've had so far. And I got to say, it's up there. It was amazing. And hadn't got into doing anything to it. And it was right before I started to learn about being a mechanic or mechanicking. And I went to my buddy's house. He had a 68 Camaro with a 6-liter. And he was putting his own turbo on it. He got a Chinese turbo for $250. And he was like, I'm going to see what happens. So he put a cam in it, but it wasn't an aggressive one. So it was enough to where it could handle that turbo and it would work right. And I'm telling him about this. I think I bought another 2010 GMC 2500 with the Duramax. So it was before DEF came along. And I put a programmer on it, and I took him for a ride, and I was like, man, can you feel that? Isn't that amazing? Take off. And he's like, yeah, this is great. This is great. Come with me. I want to show you something. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all proud of myself, because I put a programmer on my diesel truck. And he takes me and shows me that 68 Camaro. Go for a ride, and we go for a ride, and I mean, it was something else. And when that turbo kicked in, we took off. I was just like, chest went back, and I was like, how did you learn how to do all this? And he's like, grew up with it. My grandfather taught me, and I've just been working on it my whole life. And I was like, how do you think a guy like me could learn how to do this? And he goes, oh yeah. And that was it. That's when I sold that truck and bought the SS, and then sold the SS and bought a 1993 and a 1992 BMW 7 Series. So the hoods open up like that from the front, and one had a V12, one had a V8. Totaled the V8 and sold the V12. Sensing a pattern here. But that's where I got started working on cars, and I just fell in love with it. Man, I'm tearing stuff apart. I've got the front hub, trying to get the upper and lower control arm off the bracket, and I can't get it off. And I've got that pickle fork, and I'm calling my mechanic friend, and I'm like, "What do I do?" And he goes, "Grab any hammer, biggest hammer you can find." Yeah, and he goes, "Hit it." I go, "Hit it where?" He goes, "Anywhere on there, preferably close to the ball joint." I'm like, "Hit with a hammer?" And I go, "Okay." Bunk, and he goes, "Harder." I was like, "How hard I'm hitting?" I'm hit it harder, and he goes, "Hit it as hard as you can." And so I was like, I forgot to put the phone down, and man, I hit that thing, and it came apart, and I started screaming like a little girl at Christmas. I was like, "Ah!" So it just is something about that. There's just something rewarding about taking it apart, not opening up a hood and not knowing what anything is. Like, it's such a mystery and so overwhelming and so scary. I don't know what any of these hoses or wires do, and I can't identify a single part underneath that hood, to knowing exactly what everything does, where it goes, why it goes where it goes, what system works with what system, what fluids they're sharing, how it all cools itself, and from brakes up to transmissions and internal workings of the engine. Over the last 5 years, I've just been knee deep in it, and to the point that I've cried sometimes and have given up on it as well. I consider myself a terrible mechanic, and what am I doing with my life? And to just having the overjoy of having an engine turnover. So, sorry, that may have taken too long, but that's kind of the brief history.
Yeah,
I love it,
Matt. You know a little bit about some of those things, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've started with a Volkswagen, air-cooled Volkswagen, rebuilding that with my dad when I was 15, and it has gone downhill from there. I've been elbow deep in the front of a Ford engine and all kinds of stuff. So
you're a Ford guy?
I am.
I find that people are either Ford guys or Chevy guys.
Chevy guy over here.
I find it to be very, very interesting. My Ford pickup truck, F-250 97 with the 460 V8, has been the most reliable vehicle to actually turn over.
Absolutely.
But my Chevy trucks have generally been the most problem-free, I think. But I don't know, man. I find them both to be very, very awesome in their own respect, you know.
Definitely.
If there was one thing I picked up from your story, it's either you killed it, you got a speeding ticket in it, or it was a Ford, and it lasted until you got rid of it.
You know what? That's very interesting. I never thought of that.
So you are a good walking commercial for Ford. So Ford should track you down and be like, "Hey, Cory,
Absolutely.
We've got a deal for you."
Ford, are you listening?
That's right.
I'm ready and available. I love the Raptor. Just saying.
Yeah.
There you go.
We'll make sure and put you in contact when we get in contact with somebody over at Ford.
Nice.
We'll keep that line of communication wide open between us and you.
Please do.
All right. So tell us a little bit more about this dad burb of yours. I hear that it's not just a typical Suburban.
It's not. And this is perfect timing to get into that. Hey, guys, let's take our masks off and wash your hands.
Daddy, we're going to buy a robot.
You're going to buy a robot? $100 for a robot?
Sounds like a deal.
That's perfect.
For my birthday, they got 90.
Okay.
I said that I to think about it, if it's okay. If the twins get no consequences for 20 days, I'll pay them $10.
Oh, okay. All right, we're going to work a deal. I'm on an interview right now, and we can't be playing music or making noise inside the house. You can go outside, or you can play on your electronics, but I need you not going in and out of the house and not making noise. Can you do it? You guys are amazing. Extra special treats if you can do it. Huh? Got to tell them. Totally. You can go jump on the trampoline and visit. Hi, Worthy. I'm on an interview, so we got to be quiet, okay? Take your mask off, put your stuff up, wash your hands, and then you can go play outside or you play inside on your electronics, but no noise, and don't go in and out of the house, okay? Pick one or the other. And no asking me questions. Yes, you can ask me. All right, you guys done? Everybody be real quiet, okay? All right, well, best of luck.
Yeah.
Dad
Best
burp.
of
So,
luck to you.
Dad burp was born somewhat out of necessity and probably mostly out of just want. I was trying to figure out, so with those BMWs, clearly that was just sort of getting my feet wet. And I loved BMWs, I loved that 335 and I loved that M3. And so I thought, well, what better way to start than with my favorite car, and those old ones with the 4 round headlights. I just think they're the coolest looking cars on the planet. I think the 7 Series has a unique look all its own, especially when it's got the right wheels and the right setup with the suspension. And I mean, that 4-liter engine was a blast. I mean, it was a good running car when it ran. Anyway, but they're not good necessarily family cars for 5 kids. And so I was sitting there thinking like, oh, my first truck was that Kit Blazer Suburban. I was like, I'll find an old Suburban of that family. And so I found one in North Carolina, about $15,000. I paid too much for it, but the interior and the exterior are pretty much just in amazing shape. The only rust is in the back quarter panels by the bumper. And coming from that part of the country, I think it's pretty amazing. The doors and the undercarriage, the frame don't really have anything at all, just some surface. And the interior looks like brand new. Looks like it came off the back door. So it was a great start. We put some money into the original engine and stuff to keep it rolling, and it was also a learning experience for me working on that old engine and that old throttle body. And, but the whole idea was to do an LS swap, and it was it started with my buddy. They had the '68 Camaro, and that's what he did with his put an LS swap in it and then turboed it. And so we were talking about what we could do and what would be the best transmission to mate to it and what's going to sync up best for the length, and we'd have to do the drive shafts, go through all the different ideas. And we talked about it for about a year, and then it came time to Go Wheels Up started, and we started conversations about what that event was going to look like. And I was like, man, I got to turn this Suburban into the Go Wheels Up machine. We put a wrap on it, and so it has the artwork for the event all over the side of it, all over the back of it. I put racing stripes from around on the hood and all the way down the back doors. Those barn doors have racing stripes going down them. So I think it's hilarious. And so we pimped it out to look like the Go Wheels Up machine, but you start it up and it's that 180 horsepower 350 V8 that is actually probably getting about 100 horsepower to the engine and to the wheels, and it's just like there's not a lot of get up and go. And anyway, LS swap. Let's put something in. Let's get some HPs under that hood. And I just pulled the trigger on a few things. My buddy had the engine. His brother brought it to him from an oil field work truck, and it had I think it had 6L90 hooked up. There was a 2010 or 2011 GMC work truck, and left it on his garage floor and said "Merry Christmas." His company was getting rid of all these trucks, and they told him that he could take whatever he wanted out of them. So he pulled the entire drivetrain out and left it on his brother's garage floor. And so his brother's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. And I was like, let's get out of here. And he goes, yeah, let's put it in the dad burp. So first time to take an engine apart, we pulled the heads off, and he showed me what the inside of the cylinders are supposed to look like, and I'm not sure. But he said that everything looks good. And then we got some carbon off of there, and then he showed me valves and springs, and we talked about rocker arms and lifters and rods, and we pulled all that stuff out, and he let me do everything. He talked me through each part of it, but then he showed me how to do one, and he'd watch me do the rest. We changed the oil pump, and we pulled the cam out and put a stage 2 cam from Texas Speed. And so we put headers on it. We had the heads milled to 41 thousandths. So we increased the compression ratio a little bit, and then got headers put on, and then obviously, the big K&N air intake. And we went from, I think that stock engine's about 365, and we got 440, almost 440 to the wheel. So through the transfer case, we're thinking we're having about a little over 500 at the flywheel, which is pretty awesome, right? That's a pretty good pump on your own with just naturally aspirated. So it sounds amazing. And it when it runs right, it's amazing. We put a ratchet shifter in it. So I got rid of the tree shifter, and I've got a ratchet shifter on the floor, and I extended that ball so it comes up a little bit higher, and I keep my arm on the armrest and just pop it, and that's a total blast having that transmission with that shifter in it. But we did the whole thing at a place called Mod Mafia in Houston, Texas, up in the Woodlands. Yeah. And these guys work mainly and only on Hummers, H1 Hummers, and that's their main focus. The owners of the store both drive Lamborghinis as well, and so they're Lamborghini Club of Houston. But their business is H1 Hummers, and they're awesome at it. And they have some of the best mechanics and people in the business, and they do everything. You name it, they do it. So they're a total custom outfit shop, and so we made friends with them, and they wanted to be sponsors of Go Wheels Up. And so they're like, man, why don't you come use our shop on the weekend? Because we don't work on the weekends, and we can give you one of our techs, and we'll come in, we'll help you do the swap. And so once we got it all done, we picked the transmission, we had it shipped in. We got a 4L80 that we hooked up to it that's rated for 1,000 horsepower. And so we're like, we're giving ourselves some room to grow. And we went over there, and man, that was the craziest weekend. We said we're going to have it all done and running by the end of the weekend. And every single one of the guys in the shop was like, all right, well, good luck with that. Brian, my buddy who, had the 68 Camaro, is helping me with this whole thing. He'd done an LS swap in his garage, in a day on his own, and transmission and all. So he's thinking out, I don't know what the big deal's going to be, but it ended up being a lot bigger project than any of us thought. But man, we did all the things we're supposed to be doing, put all the parts that we're supposed to have in there, and we finally got it up and running, and we blew up one transmission and blew up another transmission, and now we're on the third transmission, and we think it's bad. We thought the first two were bad, but we think maybe we had a tuning issue where we didn't have something. We didn't have the torque converter locking up at 100%. It was like it had a 98% on the something that circulates. I don't know what I can't remember what it is, but there's some program where you're supposed to have it at 100, and we had it at 98, and we're pretty sure that burned up torque converter, burned up the transmission. So we think maybe we did this, but I don't want to say it officially because then the transmission company might want to have a conversation. But anyway, we're on our third transmission. I'm not sure where we're at right now, but she runs. She just she keeps going into lockup in first, second, and third gear. When I floor it, the RPMs will go up and hit about 4,500, and then go like it's shifting gears, but it's still in the same gear. Mm. So the torque converter is locking up instead of spinning it through. It's locking up, and we're commanding it not to do that, and it's not doing it. So I got a guy with a drag strip team out of Houston who thinks that he's the crew chief of a drag team. He thinks that it's the transmission's got some either bad valve body or bad electronics, and it's not receiving the message. So that's kind of where it's at. But when it does run, it has run several times where I can actually get the 35s on it to spin, and nice. It'll knock your socks off, man. When I go from first to second at about 30, 35 miles an hour, or second to first rather, and I drop it down in the first gear, and it's so much fun. And we got it up to 120 plus, and yeah, I know. And this thing's like it's like you get there and then you come back as fast as you can. You get back down there like 80's good, 80's nice and solid. And people love it, man. Everybody drives by and it thumbs up. And when they give them a stoplight, and it's like, I'm like, yeah. So there's all that kid in me that comes out every time I get behind the wheel of it, because it is a spectacle, man. It's loud, and it's loud visually, and it's loud sonically, and it's just go wheels up. What is that? I'm like, I'm glad you asked. So it works well when I drive it around. Is for the idea that we just wanted it to be the rolling billboard for the event. We want people to be like, what is that? And I'm like, it's everything you think it could be,
Well, perfect segue. Why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners who may be unfamiliar with Go Wheels Up exactly what it is you're doing over there.
It is a car show, air show, food, and music festival. And so we have the four components, and the end result that we want to have as it grows, in the next decade, is to be just the all-around event that anybody would want to go to. We have something for every single person in all walks of life. your kids have a huge kid zone. We had carnival rides and merry-go-rounds, and we had the Ferris wheel, and we've got water slides and bounce houses and an entire kids area, like a whole quarter of the thing was kids zone. Food carts and food trucks from all over the area, from Austin to San Antonio, San Marcos. We wanted really cool and fun, unique cuisine, but then also your basic fare food as well. The cars, we want to have every single kind of car and motorcycle. It's got an engine and it's got a story. We want it there. And airplanes, we've had some of the coolest air show folks. We had the Red Bull Air Force come with helicopters, guys in squirrel suits jumping out of a helicopter and then having the airplane do circles around them as they're falling. The airplane's doing loops around them. And we got plane walkers. We've got some guy in a Cessna who acts like he's drunk, flying around doing crazy stunts, and he lands on top of a rolling truck. He lands, and then he also takes off from the rolling truck. I mean, we just had the coolest. It was like a 3-hour air show. It was total blast. And then when it was all done at 6:00, I got off of the top of the truck. I was one of the announcers for the air show. And we run over and I kick off the whole event, and I play for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then Kevin Fowler came on and played for about 45 minutes to an hour. And then Brett Michaels of Poison came out and closed the whole thing out. And it was, and prior to all that, all during the day, there is music on the main stage and there's music on the inside stage. And so, nice. And then the next morning, on Sunday morning, we had a gospel brunch, and we had the finals of the car show and gave out awards and kind of closed it all down. And just had an amazing gospel band on the inside and some Tejano music on the outside. And it was really one of the neatest experiences to build it, put it together, and put it on, and then to see the looks on people's faces as they come in. And we just get to love on folks, man. The whole idea is to do the things that to put on a show that encompasses all the pieces of life that we love. Right. Airplanes, cars, food, and music. That is sort of the lifeblood of us, and share what we all feel like is the love of Christ with everybody that comes through the door. We just love on people. We wash their hands and their feet, and we serve them. And that was the general underlying theme, is that we just want to serve everybody and love on them and give them a chance to come in and see something really neat, and just take that opportunity.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So,
obviously,
COVID has been a nuisance at the very least of the scale, and been a little bit more significant for others, maybe in our listening audience and definitely around the world. And I know that has impacted Go Wheels Up, and that's also impacted your day job as a musician. Mm-hmm. So how have you all pivoted, and what are some things that you all have done in this new world to kind of keep at it and keep doing what it is that you love doing and that you've been gifted to do?
Well, when it first started, we had really great attitudes. And I think with any kind of trial, depending on where you are in your walk, you can start in on it with the right attitude. And the challenge comes from just the sense that it is a challenge. It is a struggle, and it could be either a test or just a difficulty. And so, at first, we took full advantage and did all the fun things we could do with the family and kids, and played. And they started learning how to play instruments, and we were doing all kinds of fun stuff outside. We went swimming every day and went out on the boat every day, and just really enjoyed the fact that we had an unfiltered and an unknown amount of time to just be a family. And there was nothing to get in the way. That there's no work, there were no schedules, we weren't confined by any time limits. And so it was really beautiful in the beginning. And I think as this time went on, and the unknown kept happening, they'd say, okay, well, we're going to lift it. We're closing it down. We're lifting, closing it down. And we just kept feeling like we're floating at sea with our sails up, and there's no wind. We don't know what direction to go. We don't know where we're going. And it can begin to take a toll on you personally. You start feeling like, well, I'm not earning a living, and I could go do this, but it's not going to really be enough to make sense. And do I want to dive in and relearn something, and then have things turn around, and then me have to go lead that person and that industry? There's so much just indecisiveness and unknowing of what to do, that it was just starting to take a toll on my heart, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. And so there was a sense where that hope kind of diminished a little bit. And I think at the end of the day, what I'm learning is that we are in this together, and that's not just a saying, that's not just a phrase that I think we should use lightly. We got to pick the phone up and we got to call each other, and we got to lift each other up, hold each other up. If we can't be there physically, we got to be there verbally, and we got to be there on screen. But just to remind each other that we're loved and that we're going to get through this, and that if we end up losing our house or our money or whatever it is, that's not the end of the world, man. Yeah. It's not. I mean, until the bombs start dropping and the zombies start knocking, I don't think we need to worry. We need to give that up. We need to give that worry up, and lay it at his feet and trust that he's going to see this thing through, and focus on the moment and focus on the people that are in front of you right now, and believe that he's going to provide. And man, honestly, we haven't hurt. We've not been in a position where I'm truly afraid we're going to lose everything, but it could happen. But we've been really blessed, and any of the fears and concerns have just been sort of me letting those negative demons come in and try to tear me down. So as far as it changing or how it's affected my music, we obviously don't get to play a whole lot, but it's picking up a little bit right now, and it's kind of encouraging. And I'm not getting my hopes up because it was picking up before. In July, before they did the second shutdown, we had this unbelievable looking calendar for the rest of the year. It was going to be the best year we ever had, and best last quarter. And then they shut it down again, and then everybody freaked out, and everything went away again. So now, then the calendar's bare, and so we just take what we can get. We continue to talk with people and try to put things on and say, let's put this on the books. And if it gets to the point where when we're really close, if you guys are too scared to do it, or the people don't look like they're going to come out, then we'll just deal with it when we get there. But people are kind of coming out. They're not coming out like they used to, even though the opportunity is there. We thought it was going to be different. We thought people were going to really just come barreling out of their houses. But I think there's still a fair amount of fear and insecurity and unsureness. And I think it's probably somewhat justifiable. I mean, I've known somebody just recently in the last 3 or 4 days who passed away, and it was strictly from COVID. They didn't have a pre-existing condition, nothing else. They got it. They got super sick. They went into the hospital in the ICU, refused to have an intubator, and didn't make it. And so it goes from all sides. And so I can understand it. But we're doing just the best we can with everything we get. I try to take each show as a blessing and just play for those folks like I've never played before, and remind them that they're loved and that we're all in this together, and just to keep praying for each other.
Yeah.
Well, you touched on something that definitely spoke to my heart, because my life verse is Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the God of peace, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And there was a point in my life where I just let worry consume me, and I am learning to let that go. It is
before COVID?
Yes, that was before COVID. Praise the Lord, because had I been in that spot before, this would have driven me up the wall. But I like what you said. It's all about loving on one another and being there for one another. So,
and amen to that. I think that for me, I felt like my faith has been and is really strong, and yet I have succumbed to the fear and into the whole. I'm calling it instead of a pandemic, I'm calling it a damn panic. And
that's about right.
Sorry, but I gave into the panic, and I think that it's just so important that to know that you're human and that's okay. But man, the difference between now and 10 years ago is now I have something I know I can fall back on. I know who he is. I know what my rock is. I know where my faith stands. I know where my hope lies. And so I can fall away, but I also know that I can fall immediately back in. Whereas before, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just grasping for straws to try to figure stuff out. And I think that if people don't know who he is, man, now's the perfect time to find out who he is. Because, you can fall apart in the worst situations, but you also have that thing to cling to. It brings you back in the middle of that worst situation, gives you a foundation and rock and strength and hope. And so, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. Well, shifting gears a little, it's along the same lines because ever since we got connected, I will say I've been listening to your music more and more. So tell us a little bit about the musician's life, what it's like pre-COVID, and just, you touched on it a little bit with how much you're driving around and how many miles you're putting on the Dodges, but is it all the glam that everyone imagines it being, or, is it the work that we truly think that it can be?
In the heyday, it was all the glam for sure. And we took full advantage of that glam. We took full advantage of the heyday. I think when you're on the stage, it's, and you're connecting with people and we're able to share, like, when we're in the right place, when we're, under his authority on stage and we're feeling that playing because he's playing through us, get out of the way and we can experience it the way we're supposed to, the gift that it is. And so there's no work there. But when you get off the stage, there's, and honestly, what's changed about my life from now and 10 years ago was, my favorite part was getting off the stage and chasing the girls, and drinking and playing. And now my favorite part is getting off the stage and meeting people at the merch table and talking to them about Jesus and just having an opportunity to just love on them and hear their story and hear what's on their heart. Like, I love being around people and I love that opportunity to be with them, face to face. And so that is definitely not work. Though a lot of people feel like they see me stay there for a long, long time and they think that getting, irritated or whatever. And I'm like, the show was just an opportunity to get here. That was a step. So yeah, you want to call anything work, you could call the show work because it's leading me to the fruit, and the other side of it, when you get home, and all the days that are in between the actual shows, there's definitely work. I mean, there's the marketing and the overhead, it's
the business.
Well, yeah, the workforce. I mean, the band and the techs and everybody that's in our family, trying to make sure that they're all taken care of. The bus and the expenses, and you're dealing with a business. I mean, end of the day, you really are. There's a business to deal with. And when I first started this thing, I did not treat it like a business. I just treated it like an opportunity to go have fun. Yeah. And so I didn't have necessarily that. I didn't have that thing looming over my head that it was called work as much as I do now. Because it's I look at this as my career that takes care of my family and then 10 other people's families. Yeah. And so that's a huge responsibility, and I take it seriously, and we try to do it the right way. We try to honor everybody as they come in and lead. And so, yeah, when we're not on the stage and we're behind the scenes stuff, there's a huge work aspect of it. But it's like running any other business. You've got this thing that you're trying to sell, and this thing that you're trying to promote, and like any other product that you're trying to sell or promote, you want to make it look the best and you want it to be the best. And so, as opposed to maybe a car coming off an assembly line, you can kind of control the quality of that product just by the pieces that you're going to put in it and the people that are putting it together and how well they put it together. But when you're dealing with like me, I've got all this stuff flying around in my head. And so I can get on that stage and they've put the right food in me and they've given me the right energy drinks and they've given me enough sleep. But if I'm not right here, if I'm not right there, then all that stuff isn't going to make a difference. So it's kind of crazy in that sense that I'm glad I'm not managing me. I'll just say that.
Ivan will pray for you.
Yeah.
So, looking at your calendar, it looks like you've got a show coming up very soon, October 24th in Green Hall.
Yes. Yeah, we were just talking about that today. There was a little bit of confusion. I think we booked it as a duo acoustic. I think they thought they booked it as a full band. So I don't know that we're going to be able to pull that off, but I think we're going to do a trio acoustic. So I'll have me, my guitar player John Carroll, and our piano player Jeff Bryant. And so there'll be all three of us singing, and then all three of us playing instruments, and that should be pretty fun. We don't do that trio very often, so it might be
that does sound like fun
thing for all of us.
All right,
cool.
So we're running short on time, but before we end, there is a segment Matt came up with that I am very much a fan of. And Matt, do you want to introduce it?
Absolutely. So the segment is called Random Misfire, and as all engines should be 8 cylinders, there's 8 questions in this Random Misfire segment. And some of them are yes and no questions, some of them are either or questions, some of them are just your preference. But Cory and I will kind of go back and forth, and he'll ask a question, I'll ask a question. It's just a fun way to end the conversation and to give us some more information about you and that type of thing. So I'll start us off with one that I'm curious about, because you talked about the off-road and the on-road scene. What's your preference, on-road or off-road?
On-road.
On-road?
Mm-hmm.
With a big engine under the hood?
Honestly, it's a hard choice, but I think at the end of the day, I love going fast and taking corners, and there's just something fun.
Yeah,
cool. Very cool.
I enjoy getting out with all 4 wheels spinning and out in the field and doing jumps. I mean, I can't.
Love it.
I take everything to as far as it can go, and then try to push it a little bit further.
I think your car history does speak to that. So,
yeah, a little bit.
All right.
Father-in-law, I'm rough on my cars.
No. All right. So this one's an easy one. I think I already know the answer. Do you name your cars?
I never did. Not necessarily, but now we do. My wife names everything, and so you adopt the things that your spouse does, and there are things now my wife has adopted from me, and I adopted that from her. So yeah, every single vehicle right now has a name.
Awesome.
Any fun ones you care to share?
Well, there's Dad Burb, the Go Wheels Up machine, and then there's Mom Burb, and then we have Turk, which is the F-250. The white 335 was called Hot Mama. And then I'm not sure. That's pretty much it right now.
Okay.
I didn't start naming them until I met her.
Nice.
That's cool.
I approve.
Manual or automatic?
Manual. I mean, for general purposes, automatic. Just as a general rule, because I like to drink my coffee and drive, and I like to have that hand free for texting. But definitely manual is just so much more fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So this has been a big controversy in the automotive world as of late. Team Ford Bronco, or Team Jeep Wrangler?
Oh, Team Ford Bronco.
Yeah.
I figured as much. But Matt's Team Bronco in this house, and I'm Team Jeep.
You Jeep Wrangler?
So my wife has a Jeep Cherokee, and we're working on getting a Wrangler into the household. But
well, that's the right move.
Yeah.
If your wife's a fan, then you're a Jeep fan. That's the right thing to do.
So my brother actually had a JK Wrangler and loved it. We had fun with it. He had fun with it. And
what's the new one that looks like the C8, the Scramblers? It's called the Gladiator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
I think those are really cool looking when they're done upright, when they're outfitted with the right lift and wheels and stuff. Absolutely. I just don't think there's any cooler. That's to me like the modern Scrambler, which I think is the best looking four-wheeler vehicle that ever lived.
I drove a few last weekend, and I desperately want one. So,
What kind of engine is in it?
So they've got several. They've got the 3.6 Pentastar, and I also drove. It's a new option, the Eco Diesel. So that thing is a torque monster and handled a lot of the off-road obstacles that we threw at it without breaking a sweat. So,
well, I'll say first time I went rock climbing was last year in Moab, Utah.
Yeah.
and I went with the guys from Mod Mafia that helped us do the swap. Those H1 Hummer guys, and they have an H1 gathering of all their clients, and they go up to Moab and they climb up there. And the guy that was kind of helping them put it on, he had a Jeep Wrangler, and it was the first. He unlocked the sway bars, and we put it, and it was it's a manual. Put it in first, and he goes, just let's put off the clutch, and it'll take care of itself, and so you don't really have to give it any gas. So it's in like 4 low, and everything's as low as it can get. That was cool, like climbing rocks and that deal, and just trying to find the line so you don't flip. And I think it was like a tank just climbing up the. I've never done anything like that. That was amazing. So as far as that goes, that Jeep Wrangler is one of the coolest experiences I've done off roading.
Yeah. Love it. All right. You've had both sides of this coin. So would you rather build a vehicle or buy a vehicle?
Man. Ooh, that's tough. I guess I'd have to, I'd rather build one. I think the difficulty now is that, it's just taken so long, and the people that can help me, don't have enough time altogether to help finish the thing. And if we hadn't screwed up the transmission, the first 2 transmissions, I think I'd be in a different boat. And so, it'd probably be an easier thing for me to say, yes, let's build it, or build is my choice. But still, even so, I think I'd still would rather build one.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Let's see here. More tech or less tech in vehicles?
Say again?
More technology or less technology in vehicles?
Oh, probably less. I've driven cars with more technology, and it's fun, but I just don't like the fact that they keep setting them up to where we're not supposed to fix them ourselves. And like, it's more designed so that when it breaks, you got to take it in and you got to pay the bill. And it's like, and then more stuff can break, and more electrical issues. It just seems that, I guess that would lead me more to want to build my own, from buying one. But if it's under warranty and they give you a free loaner car every time you take it in, that's something cool about that too. You get a free cup of coffee and a brand new vehicle to drive around for 2 weeks. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't know, man. That's a hard one. And I don't want to sound like a hippie about it all, because I think the technology is amazing and it's fun and it's cool.
Hey,
but it just seems
my dream car is a '69 Camaro, and I want that thing as original as possible. So
just stock as it can be.
Yep.
He's got one of those now too. We bought that together, and it's got a 525 cammed LS3 in it. Every single thing on that vehicle is brand new. Everything. It's got a 6L90 in it, and it's just we bought it, didn't have an interior, but it had pretty much everything else, and we finished it out, and have been finishing it out together. It was one of the projects we did together alongside Dadverb, and that thing is it's like the old lime green it was a lime green GM color from '67 that wasn't available in '69, but he put it on it anyway. So it's I think that's one of the coolest looking cars there is.
That's awesome.
All right, Matt, you got one more.
All right, 2 wheels or 4 wheels?
4.
4?
And are you doing a wheelie, or we got all 4 wheels available?
Well, motorcycles or cars and trucks.
I like how you think.
Hands down, cars and trucks.
Okay.
On the ground, or I have had a Honda XR 100, dirt bike. That was my first motorcycle, and then I had a '94 Ducati 900 Super Sport, and I had it bored out to a 944, and that was a really fun bike. And then I had an 01 Harley Dyna Wide Glide. It was super chopped out. It has Screaming Eagle in it, total chrome package, blue flame paint job, just ridiculous. It was fun. No windshield, which was not fun. And as much as I loved all of those, I probably loved the dirt bike the most, just because, you feel a little bit safer falling on dirt.
Yeah.
And I downed the Ducati on the racetrack, and that was scary. But yeah, I mean, I'm at this age and this stage of my life, man, I don't want to jump out of any more airplanes, and I don't want to ride on anything that doesn't have a door.
Yeah.
There you go.
Doesn't have a door.
All right.
Rubber.
Last random misfire question, and it is perfectly okay to self-promote here, but I would be remiss if I did not choose this question out of the ones that Matt and I have remaining. Favorite driving song?
Golden Earring, Radar Love.
Yeah.
I think that's tough. So I totaled the Boxster S while we were listening to Jet, that Jet album. Remember from the first of the century? I think it was. When was it? Middle 06, 07, something in there. And it was the song that was on the Apple commercial.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That was a really fun song to drive to. We drove fast to that one a lot, but I think Radar Love, Golden Earring is pretty much it.
Yeah. I find it interesting that we ask this question because I find it very hard to answer myself. I generally go with genres, and right now I'm kind of in a country kick, but more often than not, it's classic rock for me. So,
it's classic rock.
Yeah.
And you got to think about, like, the real hot rods were born out of the birth of classic rock. Like the real hot rods began in the late 50s and 60s, and that's when they first started hot rodding their cars, and that's Elvis, and then that led into the Who, and it led into the Stones, and it led into the Zeppelin, and it just started taking off from there. And so cars in America and kids and music were all like intertwined at that point, and they were drive-in theaters, and they were turning the stereos up, and they were modding out their hot rods and tearing them apart and making them faster and gathering together and showing them off. And I mean, that whole age was just like, it's such a cool history of the automobile. I watched this thing about Henry Ford and the history of the automobile, and it's just so fascinating to see that the country expanded and grew very much because of the need for roads and because of the automobile that was giving us access to get to each other. And so they had to take roads and highways, and they had to get a way for us to have paths to get to each other. So the country just grew and interconnected, and it was just a fascinating history, man.
That's cool.
Automobiles at the heart of it all,
Yeah.
Well, Cory, first, before I go into, I just want to thank you for spending some time with us and talking with us and just shooting the breeze, and to say you actually spell your name correctly. I'm very proud of that, to see someone else no E-ing it with me. So, but like I said, we just absolutely have had a blast talking with you today. Cannot wait to upload this episode. And before we let you go, where can people find you? Where is the best way for people to track you down?
CoryMorrow.com, spelled the correct way, CoryMorrow.
Yet again, we just cannot say thank you enough.
Man, I had a total blast. I'd love to do this with you every week. Thank you.
Thank you.
21 days on the road, wondering where we're gonna go from here. 21 days on the road, I'd go home, but my home's right here.
Huge thanks to Cory for coming on this week's episode and shooting the breeze and talking all things automotive with us. If you want to find out more about him, head on over to CoryMorrow.com.
If you want to find out more about us and what we're into, check out GTGarageStock.com.
But until next time, bye.